Welcome to Mama's Flightpath. I'm Jools and I'm so grateful you have tuned in today as we navigate the thrills and the turbulence of transitioning to work as a mama with clarity and purpose. Because this isn't about going back, it's about taking off. Today I'm joined by the beautiful Jo Reeves. She's a transformational change coach, and we discuss what on earth that actually means and how coaching can help you prepare your new world. We get to know why that job as a coach is so important to Jo as a single working mum, and how she empowers other women like us to take control of our path.
I am still trying to navigate a sense of balance. That is this mother paradox where there is a societal expectation that women should work as if they're not a parent or don't have children, while simultaneously parent as if they don't work.
Jo shares with us some of her tools to empower other women like us around confidence, self-esteem and self-worth. And ladies, we've got some work to do. No one's going to do it for us. Sorry. It's a wonderful and beautiful conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello, gorgeous Jo. This is such a treat.
Well, the treat is all mine, and I'm in awe of the neon.
Yeah. Got to light up that pathway, haven't we?
You gotta
Got to shine a light on it.
There it is.
Light on it.
It looks incredible, and it's an absolute privilege to be here with you today.
Likewise, I feel very much the same, Jo. So let's start with you, Jo. Tell us a little bit as a transformational change coach, I believe is what you call yourself. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, it feels big, doesn't it? A transformational change coach.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm a coach. The coaching world loves an acronym. So I'm a PCC coach with the International Coaching Federation, the ICF. And I've been working as a coach. I was working this out. So it's nearly 8 years professionally in terms of being qualified with the ICF. Prior to that, though, my work has always been with individuals. I've always worked in a inverted commas kind of supportive role and working with human beings. My work before I was a coach was working within substance misuse and addiction, where I worked in some really romantic places, Jools, like homeless hostels, probation offices and HMP prisons. But that is the work that I think gave me, I earned my stripes working with human beings. And so in answer to your question, transformational change coach, what does that mean? Well, I work with the whole person. A lot of coaches, and this is brilliant by the way, work with the behaviour, work transactionally, work very, very goal driven, and that's fantastic. But the work that I do is transformational. I look at the whole person. And whilst it isn't therapy, it is certainly therapeutic.
I love that. And when you describe you work with the whole person, what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it means that we look at the behaviours that are familiar, the behaviours that we see, the behaviours that we're aware of, but also the things that may be driving the behaviours, the stuff that maybe we're not so familiar with. And often they sit behind the behaviour. So that might be sort of our value system, our beliefs, our history, the path that we've walked before. So when I think about the whole person, I'll look at what's brought them to this space, where they've been before, and what is it that sits behind that behaviour. I also think about, so if I'm working as an exec coach, I never say that we're just going to purely work around work or career goals. I'll be thinking about who they are as an individual, whether they're a parent, whether they're not a parent, their family systems, their friendship groups, what their likes are outside of work, because all of that matters. Who we are is how we show up. And so that's what I mean by considering the whole person.
There's so many things in there, isn't there, that I'm thinking, gosh, like behaviours and what's behind those. Can you change those? And that whole person that you're talking about feels like you were describing an onion there. What all these elements of you. Like, you can't just look at that one singular thing, being a parent, and maybe I'm ambitious and I want a career, and how do you fold all of those in with your values and like how you want to show up? It's really complicated.
It is. And we're always forming different layers too, to
Mm.
use the onion analogy. As we unpeel one layer back, another may be growing within us. We're ever changing, we're ever evolving, we're never the same person. We're not. It's organic, right? We're organic. And so it's interesting that you talk about being a mother, being a parent, whether you are a parent or you've wanted to be, and you've identified of being a parent, whether you are or you're not. All of this is really important because I think it's all about identity, how we show up in the world, and perhaps even the labels that we give ourselves or the labels which other people give to us too. And I think that's something that I often invite consideration and reflection on in the coaching space.
Interesting. So what label do you give yourself, Jo?
Blimey, that's a good question. Yeah, thank you for asking me that question. On many things, because whilst I've introduced myself to you and your listeners as Jo, inverted commas, the transformational coach, woo! But I'm Jo, the single working parent. I'm Jo, Isaac's mum. I'm Jo, who's perimenopausal. I'm Jo, who's also happily divorced. So I'm all these things. I'm Jo, who's sometimes a stand-up comic. I'm all sorts of things. I'm Jo, the Brummie, if you can't already tell with my dulcet Brummie tones that leak out. I'm many things, and all of those things can be present at the same time.
Wow. Oh, I've got so many questions. What's resonating with me is you talked about how we evolve and our onion layers can grow, or we can shed some. And you shared there with us, so vulnerably, thank you, how you're a mum and you're a single mum. I'm curious about how you found that journey of becoming a mum. Like, that's a whole transformation in itself. So what was that transformation like for you, becoming a mum and a working mum?
Yeah. Gosh, thank you for asking me that question. And I guess I want to just caveat this that I'm going to be sharing a trigger warning of miscarriage, because my journey as a mum started with that. And I think it's really important because I'd already identified myself as a mum long before I even got the 2 blue lines, right? And I think that's interesting. I'd identified that I had needs, I had wants, I had wishes, being an actual mum, whatever that means, but I'd already identified as a mother. So that was my first start in this journey. Unfortunately, I did experience miscarriage, and that was really interesting because at the time, and this was 10 years ago now, I'm just doing the maths. So it was, it was a decade ago, coming up to, which isn't that long ago really, but I remember still feeling like I couldn't share that, especially in the workplace.
Yes, I hear
And
you,
it's
Jo.
interesting, isn't it? And I don't know if this is still relevant, but also, don't tell anyone that you're pregnant until you've had the 12-week scan sort of stuff. And it's like, why not? Because actually, if you do experience miscarriage, which many, many people do, that's when you need your muckers. That's when you
Yeah.
need your friends. That's when you need the support of your employers, etc. Anyway, I hope that is changing. I don't know. Anywho, but with my journey, it wasn't that. And I did tell work. I had a few days compassionate leave, and I came back to work, dusted myself down, and off you go. But actually, you experience the psychological trauma of loss. And there was this really weird sense of filling that hole, filling that void, and wanting to sort of, I need to start again. And really having to have a word with myself and go, no, Jo, you need to sit with this loss, give this loss the time it needs, and then see what happens. So that's the start of my journey. I was blessed that I did then fall pregnant. But actually, based on that experience, I really didn't enjoy pregnancy, to be totally
You
honest with you.
didn't?
Why? The reasons that sit behind that? Fear.
Fear.
I was really worried every single time I was going to a scan, oh God, what if, trying to really think about the worst case scenario. I was given a surprise baby shower.
Okay.
And I remember feeling so worried that this thing would tempt fate.
I hear this
And
a lot
I've
now.
heard that as well a few
Yeah,
times, but
I
I
have.
never told anyone that. And of course, you have to sort of perceive to be really grateful. And of course, I was. And gosh, it was great in hindsight. But at the time, I would be lying if I said I didn't have a massive part of me going, oh shit, what if, what if, what if? Fortunately, all is well. Although my story of Isaac coming into the world was really traumatic too. My placenta ruptured and I experienced, I had to have a blood transfusion
Oh,
and an emergency C-section. And again, isn't this really interesting? I'm sharing this with you, and I think I have done the work. I think, have I, Jo? Yes, I have. But it's still, you, all of this sort of big trauma, and then you're presented with your child and right, there you go, get on with it. It's really interesting, isn't it? So yeah, Isaac was born through quite a scary C-section. All is well. By the way, I do have to tell you this story. It's interesting. Isaac was £10 when he was born.
oof, he was a big one.
The wonderful surgeon who saved our lives, she was phenomenal. And she was from South Africa. She was really, I won't do the accent, the really distinct accent. And she popped her head over the screen and she said, my darling, your vagina's going to thank you. I said, why? Said, because he's absolutely huge. And then presented me with a toddler. That's my journey. That's my story. And when
Wow.
you offered the opportunity, I think, to share it, and it's such a beautiful thing to share with people. And I hope that by me sharing mine here in this space will give other people women and men and any gender an opportunity to go, oh my goodness, actually, yeah, I haven't given enough time to my experience, and that's okay.
And it's so different for everyone, that experience. And thank you so much for being so open and sharing that, because we don't talk about it enough. I think that's one of the things, isn't it? I shared a very similar journey with the miscarriage. I found that people didn't talk. I hadn't told my work actually that I was pregnant. So when I'd phoned up and I said, I'm not coming in, and I had a few days off, when I did return back, my manager was like, what's all this about? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, well, and I didn't really want to talk about it. So I think you're right. And you have to do what's right for you. But for me, when I did then fall pregnant with Hugo, I actually did tell my manager really early on, because I just thought, if this happens again, I want them to know, because I need them to support it. And that goes back to connecting with people, doesn't it? And having that support with you.
It does.
And you touched there, Jo, about a lot of fear. And I think people probably can relate to that if they've had miscarriages as well as people who have not. I think there is that fear, isn't there, of like, I just need to get this baby in my arm. It's 9 long months. That fear can kind of show up in many ways. I'm wondering, where is that fear now?
And you know where I'm drawn to respond? I feel that I am still trying to navigate a sense of balance. That is this mother paradox, where there is a societal expectation that women should work as if they're not a parent or don't have children, while simultaneously parent as if they don't work. And when I did work for an organisation, I was constantly mindful of the asking for flexibility to attend assemblies, to attend the concerts, to attend parents' evenings, to attend the fetes or whatever it might be. And also, it's not just the asking, which, again, you're feeling like there was a sense of feeling, certainly for me, that you're asking for something that's above and beyond what's okay, actually. Now, I know times have changed and flexible working is now, thank goodness.
Thank you, COVID.
Yeah. However, I still hear that through women that I work with and coach with, that it's sometimes still not. It's received with eye rolling, metaphorically. And not only that, it's not just sort of the organisation or your line managers, but also I was conscious of how my peers would see me leaving work early or leaving the office to attend X, Y, or Z? Am I less of a team player? Or, not being able to attend the drinks, not being able to attend the socials as well. What am I missing out of? So there's that part, having to show up at work as if you don't have a child. But then on the other side of this is that schools, and I've got it recently, schools assume that you're not working. I only received an email today about some assembly that's next week. I'm like, well, I can't go, or I've got to try and, move some appointments around to be able to show up. And of course, being a single working parent, I feel a sense of responsibility to be there a lot of the time. That's probably coming from my own narrative, to be honest, but there is such an expectation from schools, from nurseries, and from family, as well. Certainly my mum, who's such a great help, by the way, she's brilliant, but she didn't work full time.
Okay.
So there is are you not going to the assembly, is sometimes the tone.
Because she always was able to, right?
Yeah.
So she doesn't
Oh,
understand.
you're not able to go. You're not able to move your thing. So then what comes up? Then you've got the guilt. And so what I've even forgotten the blooming question now that you asked, but where I am now in response to it is this, certainly, and I think as a mom, more so, if I'm being totally truthful, we are constantly on this sort of tightrope of balancing this paradox of showing up for work that you aren't, especially a single parent, and showing up for school and nursery and family as if you're not working.
Yeah. It's tough, really, really tough. And people are searching for that question, like, how do you juggle and balance it all?
You can't, actually. That's the thing. I think we've also I know I was, and I'm not going to assume that anybody listening has, but that I was fed a narrative of you can have it all.
I was too. Yes.
Have it all,
I
sister.
think society does
You can have it all.
You can have it all.
You
Mythbuster.
can't, actually. Something has to give. And actually, once I gave myself permission for that, actually, that's when things started to become more manageable. Do I still have guilt? Yeah. Do I still have to turn down or be honest with clients and organisations whom I work with about, I need to move an appointment or a schedule based on childcare focus? Yeah. Does it make me feel guilty? Yeah. But actually, I'm having more sense of pride when I do that, actually, with more organisations. Now I am self-employed, and now I'm founder of my own coaching business. I can forge my own narrative with that. And actually, I'm finding that the assumptions that I had, certainly about what will they think if I'm changing it? Oh gosh, will they think I'm less professional because I'm going to the school concert? Is often received with, yeah, of course, brilliant, that's first. So I know not everyone has that opportunity, and so I'm conscious of that privilege of being self-employed. But you can't have it all, actually, and you have to just be kind of sit with that. I think is something that might be difficult, but it's the reality, right?
Yeah. I think for me that, transition of becoming a mum and having that reality of, well, it's not a luxury for me to work. I have to work. That's not a choice. I have to do it. And I want to be the best mum I can. And I guess it's, how can you entwine them together so that they kind of enrich each other?
You know what's really helpful for me, Jules? When I am turning around to my boy and saying, Mummy's got to go upstairs now, back to my office. I say office, it's more like a cubby, but to my working space. I'm working with a client. I sit with this notion of role modelling. I am role modelling to my boy that I'm working. I've explained to him, he knows that I'm independent and I need to work for the things that we have, food on the table, blah, blah, blah. But also that I'm role modelling. I want him to see that, yeah, I do work and that I work hard and that's okay.
Yeah. And I saw your face really light up when you spoke about that, Jo. Like, I felt Like, I feel really proud to hear you sharing that, because it's actually huge, just reflecting back on what you've said. That's huge, what you're doing
Yeah,
and how you're
and
showing up in
actually,
the world.
how I do sort of navigate that paradox, is that sometimes I will have to say that I can't attend the thing or that I can't play Lego because I have to go back and do the thing. But I will always share with him the reasoning why, and that I know that I'm role modeling that I can work independently, role modeling working hard. But also on the other flip side is that I say to him, if I can't do X, I'm going to be here to do Y. And that is my promise, and really ensuring that I keep that promise to him
Yeah.
too,
Important is it for you, Jo, that you are in that role modeling space, that you are doing a job, a role that really aligns to your values and beliefs?
It is fundamental. You know what? This year has been such a massive transformation for me. Another layer of onion, coming back to that metaphor. So working for an organisation that I'd worked with for many years, experiencing redundancy, having to really pivot very quickly and think, what am I going to do? It's only me. What do I do?
That's that fear coming back.
Oh, there it is, Bab. But right, okay, I've got to make this work,
Yeah.
not just for me, but for my boy, for us. And so the sense of pride that I have now I'm really transparent with Isaac. As much as he can comprehend, I'll share, He knows that it's just me. He knows that I've created my business and the importance of that. I really want anyone to hear this. I never thought I would be able to do what I did. It's coming up to nearly a year. I'm like, blimey, I'm still here. I'm still doing it. I'm still hustling.
Smashing it.
High five me. Woo! Oh, but it's really important about role modeling. The times when I'm having to leave the house at 5 a.m. to go to an office in London or an office in Nottingham or Manchester, and Isaac has to go to his nanny's, or he has to go with a friend and stay over, or whatever the arrangements might be. I'm sitting him down, I'm explaining to him, but I'm beaming. I'm like, yeah, do you know what? Mommy's got this and it's really exciting and I'm going to be doing this and I'm proud of this. And he's like, I'm really proud of you too.
Oh,
Nice. Brilliant. And I think there's something about role modeling, how you talk to yourself and that sense of pride, and the language about your work is really powerful to children because they pick up on it, through osmosis.
yeah. And I think that, that's something I've been really conscious with, that I have said to Hugo, oh, I don't really want to go to work tomorrow. And then he's picked up on that, like, oh, you don't want to. I'm like, oh, it's just that I didn't want to drive into the office. But you're right. Like, they pick up on that energy. So that is a beautiful gift to share. Thinking of that role modeling.
Totally. Only this morning he said, oh, I don't think I want to go to school today. I said, I get that, mate. Yeah, I get it. There's many times where I don't want to work and I'd much prefer to come and play Lego. He said, really? I was like, yeah. There's sometimes we have to just, think about, well, how long have I got to be there, or how long, what positives am I going to take from this? But also that it's okay that you don't want to do it. Both can sit equally, coming back to that thing that, all emotions can be present. Eventually we got the uniform on and eventually I got him to school. But I think it's kind of being okay that it's all right that you don't want to go. We all get that from time to time.
Yeah, we do, don't we? Of course we do. And I know that you are quite passionate about empowering women, and you actually have got a course coming up, which is for empowering women.
Yeah.
My question is around what does empowerment? I know that you are quite passionate about empowering women, and you actually have got a course coming up. What does empowerment mean for you?
What empowerment means for me will be different to what empowerment means to you.
Okay.
What empowerment means to me will be different to what empowerment means to the people listening. And I think that, first of all, fundamentally is what empowerment is. One of the sort of taglines for the program that I have is the label or the belief that many, many women have within their limiting beliefs is that of being a good girl. Be a good girl. I know I had that place on me. Be a good girl and don't be too big. Be a good girl and don't show off. Be a good girl and do X. Be a good girl and ... So in answer to your question, what it does empowerment mean to me? Empowerment means to me, and that is about trusting my inner wisdom, trusting my intuition. Because from my experience of working with women, our intuition, our inner wisdom gets knocked out of us at a very young age. More so, I think, with women and girls than with young boys. And so empowerment means to me something about coming home to self, trusting your inner wisdom and trusting your intuition.
Oh, that is beautiful. And like, I don't know, like when you're describing that, I could almost see like that little internal compass, but really sad to hear that it kind of gets knocked out of us. So what tools, do you teach on your course to help women believe their potential and believe that, to trust that inner wisdom?
Well, there's so many I couldn't possibly list. However, I've got some stuff that I think I'd love to share. And this comes with this idea of that confidence, self-esteem, and self-worth are separate.
Okay.
Often they get cobbled together in this same little bag, this same little box. And actually, in the work that I do, in the programs that I run, but also in the coaching one-to-one that I offer, is invite this idea of separating them. What does confidence look like? What does self-esteem and self-esteem look like? And what does your worth look like? So that's the first thing I often invite reflection and curiosity around. But also I do this exercise around the self-esteem six-pack.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So
I love one of them.
Oh, wouldn't we all like to? Because here's the thing, just by thinking about getting a six-pack, you're not going to get a six-pack. I mean, I've tried. I've really thought about getting it, and it doesn't. What you? Yeah, I have all the affirmations, and it's not happening. However, the same kind of rules apply to mindset, I think, and certainly with self-esteem. So the idea is around sort of neuroplasticity, and that in order to forge new neuroplasticity, in order to build up those sort of new neural pathways, you've got to kind of do the work. Almost like going to the gym, you've got to kind of do the crunches, you've got to lift the weights, you've got to do the work in order to build the new thinking. So there's some few tips. I won't give all of them away, but I'll give you a few tips. So a couple of crunches that you and your listeners can do. The first one, like the first exercise at the self-esteem gym, is notice how you talk to yourself, and talk to yourself like you talk to your friend. Now, my internal chatter at times in my life has been bloody horrendous. It's been cruel, actually. It can be vicious and venomous at times.
And this is this voice that you almost like hear, like you talk to yourself. Okay.
That inner dialogue, which we all have. And so my invitation straight away is to start to notice that inner dialogue. And that in itself is the work, by the way. And then when you start to notice it, ask yourself, would I talk to my mates like that? Would I talk to my best friend like that? And if the answer is no, then I'm going to invite you to reframe it. For example, I was looking in the mirror the other day and I'm like, oh God, I need a haircut. My hair's looking like a shaggy old bush or something. I said something like that. I look like a right state, I think is something what I actually said. And then would I say that to my mate? No, I wouldn't. And this might seem like so insignificant, but these little drip, drip, drip sort of moments of being criticism, inner criticism, really matter. So reframing it was like, actually, Jo, you know what? You're looking all right. You're looking all right.
You're looking fabulous.
Thanks, Bab. But these things, notice it and reframe it. Because here's the thing, our brains can't distinguish between whether we're saying it to ourselves or if it's someone external saying it to us. So if you can imagine whatever it is you're saying to yourself on a daily basis, you're not enough, you're rubbish at that, you look terrible, your hair looks rubbish, you're at maths, you're not academic, you're a rubbish mum, or whatever it is you're saying. Imagine that it's someone following you around and actually saying that to you, whispering it in your ear. Because that's actually what's happening. That is it. That is what is being impacted in your brain. It can't distinguish whether it's you saying it to you or it's somebody else. So once you start thinking, blimey, that's what, these things matter. Every single kind of, oh God, I'm so rubbish at that. Oh God, I'm such a terrible this. Or, oh, I'm a rubbish cook. Really? Reframe it. Be a bit more pleasant to yourself. Speak and talk to yourself like you're your best mate. That's the first exercise in the self-esteem gym.
And when you say reframe, Jo, are you literally like what you did with your hair? Do you stop yourself and then you say it differently? You catch yourself saying that?
Whoa, hold on. Actually noticing it is part of the exercise.
And then
It's
say it
part of the
differently?
work. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. What would I be saying to my friend if I was here and listening to her or him or them saying that?
Okay.
I'd say, you're right, your hair looks absolutely lovely. In fact, it's really shiny today, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that might be like, oh, I can't do that. That people will think, what people? Because again, this forms part of this sort of narrative that we've all had, especially as women, of being a good girl. Be a good girl and don't show off. So start talking to yourself like your best mate. That's number one. And number two, give up on perfectionism. We've had a little chat about perfectionism before we recorded, haven't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
It's the amount of times I do talks or whatever, and I said, put your hand up if you're a bit of a perfectionist, very lightheartedly. And 90% of the audience raise their hand and kind of giggle. But perfectionism is one of the most common factors of dishappiness or dissatisfaction.
Wow.
So ask yourself this, what does good enough look like? And I wish someone had said this to me when I was a mum, early days, because I remember going to some like play groups and stuff and looking at all the other mums or parents and thinking, oh my God, I haven't made homemade kale snacks, or I haven't baked the biscuits, I've given Isaac a Kit Kat or what, or some Palm Bear, whatever beige snack.
5 to 9, he survived.
And then thinking I'm not good enough as being a parent, I haven't done the thing. But actually, what does good enough look like? And actually, good enough can sometimes mean you just sit down with your kid and the house is in turmoil, who cares? But you're playing with them, you're giving attention, and you're sharing a Kit Kat together. That's what they'll remember. They won't care if you've baked or you haven't baked. Good for you if you do, by the way, brilliant. But if you haven't, brilliant. We often think that we've got to be 100% of the time, be that in work or as a parent, and we don't. So ask yourself, well, what does good enough look like? Good enough some days is 30%. Good enough for me some days was 10, when I didn't get dressed and I was still in my pyjamas when I went to bed and I still hadn't washed my hair for day 3. But that 10% was what Isaac and I needed on that day, and it was all right. In fact, it was more than okay.
Do you look back fondly at those days?
Yeah, I got my hair at one point was one dreadlock. But it's all right. Who cares? What does good enough look like? Remembering that you can be, some days you are going to be 100%, but not all day. You might be dialing yourself back at 2 o'clock to 80% or whatever it might look like. You're up and you're down this sliding scale, but you're certainly not 100% of the time. What does good enough look like?
And that, to me, when you're describing that, almost sounded like that, the metaphor, the idea of a phone with a battery. Like your battery phone isn't 100% all the time, and you might need to recharge it.
There's no might about it. You will. Otherwise, you'll just...
Yeah, there's no might. You're right.
You'll burn out.
You've got to recharge. And you might do that in the middle of the day, or, and it goes back up to 100. When you were talking about that perfection, Jo, I heard a lot of comparison come in. And that is dangerous, isn't it? When we compare ourselves to the other mum who, I'm the same as you, I can't No, I can cook.
Nice reframe, Bab. I saw it. Yeah,
I can
fabulous.
cook, I just don't enjoy it. So I would rather buy a snack and use that time to play Lego. Um,
Bingo. And you're
that's
right.
okay.
Comparison, it'd be really easy for me to say, don't compare yourself to others because we can't help it. We have an inbuilt kind of bias to compare,
Mm,
but noticing it is helpful.
okay.
Noticing what you're comparing yourself to, and also asking yourself the question, do I actually want that? More often than not, I can be on social media doom scrolling. Yes, we all do it. And yes, it annoys me. One thing I'm like, oh, I haven't got that bikini. And next thing you know, I'm click, click, click. And I'm looking at bikinis. I'm not even going on holiday. What am I doing? Why am I comparing? I haven't got a bikini. I've got to go. What, Joe? What the
Yeah.
actual F are you doing, Bab? So noticing comparison, checking in with that comparison. Do you actually want that thing that you're looking at or you're admiring, or are you admiring it, or are you fearful that you don't have it?
Are you fearful you don't have it?
And
That's a
then
great question to
do
ask
you actually
yourself, isn't
want
it?
it? These are the things that it can be really helpful, and especially in the maternity phase of being a parent, because I think that forges a lot of how you then go back into the workplace.
Yeah.
So if you can start doing this stuff now, it can be really, really helpful. By the way, I don't think I did enough of the work, to be perfectly honest. But that's why I'm in this space now, hopefully supporting working parents who are making that transition.
I think it's hard for us to do the work. Your head is so full of all this other stuff. You're possibly suffering from sleep deprivation. And your mind, it's this whole new world, isn't it, that you're trying to take on? And then exactly going to that point where you said earlier, how am I going to go back to work as if I'm not a parent? Well, you're not. And it's that goes back to that self-talk, doesn't it? We got to talk to yourself differently. It is going to be different.
Asking for support, and don't get me started on paternity. Our paternity in the UK is shocking in comparison to some of our European counterparts, actually. And I think, again, the system needs to change, actually, in terms of the paradox that I've talked about, this balance. But actually, we can't do it alone. I'm saying we as women, as or as parents who identify as being a woman. It's not just on us. It can't be. We have to have allies to support that. And the system needs to change, in my opinion.
Going back into the workplace, I think a lot of the listeners might not even be back in the workplace yet, that are thinking about that kind of challenge to go back in. And if you were able to kind of whisper in their ear of kind of one tip to take with them to help prepare, what would that be?
I think there's something about intuition here. Trust your inner wisdom. Trust your intuition. There can be, and I have unfortunately been witness to examples that have been shared around feeling gaslit. So trust your intuition with what feels right. If something doesn't feel right, don't be fearful to challenge and to speak up, and get very familiar with the policy, the maternity policy.
Some good tips in there, Jo. Thank you. That when you were talking there about having your voice and being able to be confident, for me, and I would imagine lots of people can resonate with this, going through that transition of having a baby, which I've only recently learned has an actual word, which is called matrescence. Have you heard of this?
No.
Oh my goodness, but this is a whole nother podcast. There's a whole word, it's called matrescence, which relates to, if you imagine you've got this coming up not too long with your son, but when you go through adolescence, we give people grace for going through adolescence because their body changes and their hormone changes and they change. They're changing into a new person. And when you arrive at motherhood, it's the same. It's known as matrescence, but we don't honor that. And I love how you use that word wisdom and like letting us get in touch with kind of that new innate wisdom that we have as mums, and how we are becoming these new people. And I've heard like mums say, I just can't wait till I can get back to who I was, or I can't wait
Yeah,
till I can
yeah.
bounce back. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. Like, you are a different person. You've gone through this humongous change.
The onion metaphor is coming
The
back. You're
onion.
ever evolving, you're ever growing new layers from within.
Yeah.
And we're constantly shed, we're organic beings. And yeah, I think it's really important that we do give a shout out to that. Oh, yeah, that sense of bouncing back and returning to who you are. But actually, it's almost seen as though the person that you are as a mum is something that needs to be changed. No, it should be cherished, nurtured, and celebrated. I love this word, and I'm now going to be shoehorning that into every conversation possible, by the way.
Yes, because there's a lot of work around it. We love a label, don't we?
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
confidence, when I went back, was shot, completely shot. And I think a lot of people will resonate with that, just feeling a lack of confidence. And so if they wanted to work with somebody like yourself, Jo, or go on your course, how would we find you? Or
Jo Reeves Coaching .com is my website. I'm at Jo Reeves Coach on Insta. You can find me as Jo Reeves PCC. Told you the coaching word loves an acronym, on LinkedIn. And my email is joreevescoaching.com. And get in touch. Get in touch.
there's nothing like being able to have that one-to-one coach, or doing your course would help. Do you think would help people with confidence, taking control of their journey, and like all those things you said, like having that narrative for yourself and having that confidence for yourself as you go back?
Getting support, finding your tribe. And by the way, it might not be me that people resonate with. They might think, yeah, I want to work with a coach. Well, maybe not so much Jo, and that's equally okay. Find a coach. Find a coach that really you connect with,
Oh,
and
that's
that
a good tip, Jo.
you spark with, and there's that chemistry to do the work that you feel safe with. Groups are phenomenal, because there's a sense of role modeling with each other, and also that, oh, I thought it was just me. You do that too. Oh my God, that's so brilliant. There's a sense of that connection, and that can be really, really helpful. So whether that's through groups, coaching groups, the work that I do, or other coaches offer, but the sense of connection is essential, I think.
So true. So true. Before we go, Jo, I love that you've ended there on that sense of connection. And for me, it's really important that we finish on asking you a few hot seat questions, if that's okay. Here we go.
I'll try my best.
Okay. If your journey had a theme song, what would it be? I know you're a music lover. So
Yeah, Moving On Up by Primal Scream.
What? Where did that come from? That was Moving On Up by...
Primal Scream.
Okay, do you want to give us a note?
Let me tell you, the song has followed me throughout my life.
Wow.
And I bumped into Bobby Gillespie, who's the lead singer of Primal Scream, in a Sainsbury's just over a year ago, and I was like, oh my God, and we spoke for about 10 minutes, and it was an incredible moment. And then I really tussled with this because another one is Inner City Life by Goldie, and I also weirdly bumped into Goldie whilst at the ballet. Weird. And anyone who knows Goldie, I was like, wow. And again, I had a great conversation with him. So Moving On Up by Primal Scream, Inner City Life, Goldie.
Love that. Thanks, Jo. I'll creating a little Spotify
Spotify, now that's on point. That's on brand.
Isn't it? I'll add it to them. Thank you, Jo. What is your go-to act of self-care that helps you show up to be yourself?
Two
Be your
things.
best self.
Yeah, two things. In the morning, I have a kitchen rave.
Oh, I love
Tunes are on loud, and we will listen to drum and bass, jungle, 80s rave music. And in complete contrast, I do practice yoga 2-3 times a week.
That is very opposite, isn't it? And both of those equally allow you to show up at your best. If you had a magic wand, what are the cultural shifts that you would create to support working mothers? We touched on this, didn't we, today, about the cultural. What would you like to see?
I think it's back to that mother paradox.
Mm.
that sense. That's what I would change. Societal expectations of women, parents showing up as if they don't have children, and while simultaneously parents parent as if they don't work. That's what I would change.
Wow, that would be great, wouldn't it? Imagine
Wouldn't
that.
it?
Wow, that'd be lovely. Do you have a mantra or a phrase that keeps you going through tough days?
As a Brummie, there's an expression we use a lot, just it's yes, bab. Yes, bab. Come on, yes, bab. I often say that to myself. When my narrative is somewhat off, though, I will ask myself, will this matter in a year's time?
Oh, that's a good one. Will this matter in a year's time? I've heard lots of people say, will this matter like tomorrow or like a shorter frame? Why in a year?
The time frame will feel right for you. A year is often, because in a day's time, it will still probably matter, whatever the thing is. I don't know, you've sent an email out with a typo. Oh, God forbid, but in a year's time, that will not matter.
Yeah.
It really won't. So works for me.
Yeah,
But
I like
insert
that.
time frame that suits you.
But for you, a year, that feels right. Yeah, I like that. Will buying that bikini matter in a year's time?
Hell no.
No, I could talk to you for hours and hours, and there was so much in there that I feel like we could have unpacked even further. But thank you so much for sharing your inner wisdom and how, you show up as a mum and how that's been really important to you in your career, and sharing how we get that six pack. I mean, I'm disappointed that I can't just manifest it and I'm going to get it. I've got to put some work in.
Listen, try keep those affirmations, and absolutely, I want to high five you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. What a privilege. Secondly, you're doing it. You're doing the role modeling. You're being brave. You're being courageous, and I want you to know that I absolutely high five and I'm in awe of you.
Thanks, Jo. You've been an inspiration to me, and that's why I wanted to have you as my first guest. So thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on Mama's Flightpath. I hope today's episode inspired and empowered you. To support the show, please share with a friend and leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. This really helps us reach more mamas. I'd love for us to stay connected. Simply visit the website mamasflightpath.com. See you next week. Until then, fly high and shine bright, mama.